You know, we all have slips of memory. Go to the grocery store, you forget to buy the container of milk your wife wanted you to buy. It just slipped their mind. They were so busy talking about the deficit that they went into 2 wars, cost trillions of dollars, and forgot to pay for it. And today, they have noticed, it has come to their attention that there is a deficit.
The Republican fiscal plan is a two-step game. Step 1, Republicans pass enormous tax cuts for the rich, increasing the deficit. Step 2, with the deficit high, Republicans pretend the deficit is a huge issue and push for cuts to critical programs that benefit working families. They say, gosh, the deficit is just so big right now. We just have to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and nutrition assistance. We promise we are very sorry. The official deficit figure for fiscal year 2019 was just released, $984 billion, or 4.6% of GDP. And it turns out that tax cuts and increased military spending since 2000 were responsible for more than all of it. In 2019 alone, the Bush tax cuts cost $551 billion, the Trump tax cuts cost $290 billion, and wars plus enormous increases in base Pentagon spending cost $315 billion. In total, that's $1.2 trillion. But despite what you hear ad nauseum from Republicans,
we cannot continue to rack up the debt at the rate we are.
Deficits and debt just aren't that big an issue. At least not in the way Republicans talk about them. But while federal debt has grown, the country as a whole, including the people in it, gained even more than that in assets. In fact, our country's wealth divided by the total number of households comes out to more than $750,000 per household. The only true problem we have is that this growth in assets has been enormously unequal, in the last 30 years going overwhelmingly to the wealthy. Their goal isn't a balanced budget, which itself is not a useful goal. Instead, their goal is tax cuts for the rich. And of course, they're never asked, how are you going to pay for it when it comes to tax giveaways for the rich and corporations and a Pentagon budget that has spent trillions of dollars in wars since 9/11. And this is the key part. Once those tax cuts for the rich and military spending cause deficits to rise, Republicans pretend to worry about the deficit.
Nobody cares more about the deficit and debt than I do.
And then use the deficit as a tool to push for cuts to critical programs that lift people out of poverty or keep them from falling into poverty to begin with. They call for cutting entitlements.
Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. There's been a bipartisan reluctance to tackle entitlement changes.
Rather than cutting programs that we all rely on, and rather than bestowing more tax cuts on the rich, we should be working to promote fairness.